Last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. I'm excited. Without further ado, let's welcome Steve Fingerman to the show. Steve, let's go.
Al, what's up, buddy? It's so great to be here today.
What are some of the biggest things that you're seeing right now when it comes to what realtors are doing in your market?
Right now is when you work on your relationships, right? You focus on your sphere, you go back to your database, you make calls and keep in constant contact. The agents that I see doing that and implementing those strategies every day are the ones that I see are my top producers.
What people are seeing more of now are short sales. There's some people that don't remember that era.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm seeing short sales again. I haven't seen them since what, 08, 9, 10. We did them into like 13 and then they kind of went away as the market recovered. In fact, I just taught my agents a whole class on short sales, on how to do them, how to negotiate with the bank, what you're going to need, what documents, to make sure that they know how to navigate through that process really, really well.
Hey, maybe the market picks back up all of a sudden. We're all back in equity positions. So,
And it will. Look, it's going to come back. It's going to pick up. We're always cyclical. I already see more loan application. A higher loan volume is coming. Work with people that are going to be very transparent with you, will give you the information that you need. And most importantly, work with folks that are local, that know your market. Forget about the internet lenders and the big box banks. They don't usually have your best interest in mind. That's just not their model. That's not their business. These national companies don't know your local market's intricacies the way your local lender and mortgage brokers do.
Love those thoughts, Steve. You're the man. Always appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Al. It was so great to be here.
And welcome back, everybody, to another Wednesday night on the Al Nicoletti Show. If you want more content like this, check out the QR code at the top of the screen. That's where you're going to find all the content on everything from the show on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, Instagram, the show, the YouTube channel, tons of content out there. I can entertain you for hours. And of course, all the videos on quiet titles, probates, partitions, all the messy curative title things that are out there. You don't want to miss that. And we got another banger of an episode with my guy, Jordan Fleming, the owner and founder of Smartphone. If you are an investor and you're picking up the phones and you're running your business, so many of you know Smartphone. And if you don't know the company Smartphone, you're about to find out, because there's a lot of people that are diving deep and doing the things on the phone using the software. And I can't wait to talk to the guy that is part of this company, the guy that owns this company. So I'm ready to go. I got my pen, I got my paper. We are ready. We're live in the studio. And let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. And welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and always bringing the best in the game. No matter what industry we're in, we want to provide the best guests to help you level up your business on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, we got the owner and founder of Smartphone. For those that know it, you know it. For those that don't, you're about to find out, because Jordan Fleming is the guy when it comes to the ultimate software that people are using for dialers and picking up the phones. People want more deals. People want more leads. People want more of the real estate. And this is where everything is made. This is where the magic is happening. And we want to dive in on how people can really leverage this and honestly know where the industry is headed with our artificial intelligence. We want to know, are things going to be changing? What do we got to keep abreast of? Like, we got to know everything about this. So I'm excited to take notes, learn from Jordan, and I know you all are too. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Jordan Fleming. There's my guy, Jordan.
Wow, now that is an intro. I mean, I'm excited to be here, Al. It's great to see you again. Last time I saw you, I think we were on a boat together, and so it's great to be back and speaking with you tonight. I'm thankful for you for bringing me in.
Absolutely, Jordan. And that was so fun being on Nick Camrata and Jared Prevost, the yacht party. That was awesome. And speaking of that, that's the best part about this, right? The relationships that are made in this business, right? Being able to be on a boat like that, being able to talk about where you're at, where I'm at, and being able to really just dive deep on in our industries. And it's all about relationships in real estate. So just want to say it was awesome then, and awesome to have you on now. Jordan, we got to dive in because I know so many people that use smartphone, so many people that want to get more deals, more leads. Talk to us about AI and where things are going with this, because it all has to tie in, right? This industry has to tie in with where things are changing in our world.
Absolutely. And there's a couple things that there's kind of a mindset shift that's going on right now, or needs to go on, I should say, because whether you think of AI as a fad or not, and it's not, or anything else, there's an even broader mindset shift that I think people have to start really taking on board if they're going to succeed in the new world. And that is to understand that work, what we do every day, it used to be all about us, right? And if you think about how we use systems, technology, how you use it, historically, for the last 30 years, businesses have thrived because of software, right? We have built and grown and we've improved, and our processes have been quicker and everything. But that model was about humans doing work and software organizing work. So the idea was that there are two components to any business. There's the labor, and then there's the organization, there's the software. Well, that world is changing. And if you really want to understand where AI can take you as a business, you have to take yourself out of the mindset that humans do work and systems process work or manage it, and get into a world where there is a shared responsibility of work that passes between human and system. And that is it is not, people look at systems like ChatGPT and they think about, I go to ChatGPT and I blah blah do this. That's great, that's a step. But the real power of where AI is bringing us into, from a business perspective, is where we can share the burden of labor between system and person. And I'll say the one greatest way that you can recognize this is that it is usually labor that makes growth a challenge. Growth usually breaks not because of systems or processes, but because systems and processes assume that labor can catch the ball and run with it every time. But that's not true when you're dealing with a pure human workforce that gets sick and has off days, etc. And so what we used to have to do is we used to have to scale by hiring. Now we have to get into a mindset that recognizes there are going to be roles for systems to do work, to take responsibility. There are going to be roles for people to do work and take responsibility. And the melding of the two is where the real future of AI and business is going.
And it sounds so fascinating. I love the way that you're breaking this down, because I'm like glued in and zeroed in on like where this is going. Like this is sounding like you definitely have to have a different mindset, a mind shift to understanding like your businesses. And I can tell you that for a lot of people that are scaling, they keep hiring more and more and more people. But AI is changing that by offering these systems and processes so that you can eliminate that time and you don't have to get to that point. So, for those that have teams of maybe 1 to 5 or 5 to 10, or maybe going a little higher, what would be one of the first softwares or steps they should take right now to say, we need to implement this and we need to make sure that we keep up to date with where things are going?
Well, I'll give you an example. Now, this is going to be a selfish example, but you and I both work very, very strongly with the real estate investment community, right?
Yes.
So here's the number one easiest win to get involved with AI. And when I say get involved with AI, I am talking about that agentic AI. I'm not talking about, a pretty trinket or making a video quicker or automating a process. Automating a process is fine. It's great. It's wonderful. But that's not the capability that agents genuinely represent. Agents represent labor and the ability to do work, not automate simple things. So, an easy first case: Make sure your phone is answered 24/7 and people are qualified 24/7 by an agent who is trained in your model, understands real estate investment, understands probates, understands the process, understands how to qualify, understands how to get motivation, how to get urgency, how to get identify property details. You should never have another voicemail again, because the easiest win for a real estate investor right now is to simply get a voice AI agent to answer every single call. And how I usually structure it with most of the people I talk to is I say, listen, have the phone ring all your people. And if your people can't answer it, get it answered by AI. Voicemails are the death of motivation, right? We don't want voicemails. We want people to be engaged. That's easy, it's quick, it's reliable, and it's something you can implement immediately in your business.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing so many people that show some of the back and forth messaging that they use with AI, and some of the threads and conversations that happen, and it's like, wait, that's not a human that's actually answering, that is AI, and it's very fluent with going back and forth with a seller or somebody that's involved in the transaction. So there's probably a lot of programs like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is the hardest bit about this is voice. Text messaging is relatively easy because it's not dependent on real time, right? Voice, a conversation like we're having right now, conversation is the heart of every business. Whether we like it or not, whether you believe it or not, it is conversation that builds trust. It is conversation that drives a lead to become a sale, right? We build relationships, we build trust, we build opportunity through conversation. And voice, speaking to people, is the fastest way to develop that conversation. And so when you're talking about voice and AI, for instance, there's a lot of things you've got to be careful about to make sure that that works well. But when it works well, when you get the right systems with the right infrastructure that can handle that, you can genuinely have every single one of your qualifying conversations delivered by voice AI and get your main people to simply be working on those qualified leads that an AI has qualified for you. And that, when you start to think about that, you're not thinking about it as a trinket or a bit of software. You're starting to think about it as a role. My qualifying role will be AI. My closing role will be human. It's not about a system or a feature. It is about understanding the role definition and how those two come together.
Yeah, and it sounds all like you having that front end of that business being built is going to simplify everything even more on the back end, because you could focus on the back end and be good at what you're doing, and the front end is filtering out all the leads and filtering out everything. It's great.
How many times we speak to investors all the time, and how many frogs you have to kiss before a prince comes, right? I mean,
Yes.
and if you're doing heavy lead gen, you're doing a big mailing campaign or PPC, whatever it is, you're buying, like, the last thing you want to do is waste human capital on tire kickers, right? It's a demotivation to your sales team. You got a good salesperson. What do they want to do? They want to be closing leads. They want to be making those wins. They don't want to be qualifying every, Tom, Dick, and Harry who calls in and who isn't really serious. If they get 40 calls a week that aren't serious, that's time they could be spent dealing with serious people. And again, going back to this idea of shared responsibility, have AI share the responsibility for qualification, have humans take that ball and close the deal. Humans are happier, everything's quicker, and you get better results.
I love that. And I think everybody could benefit from that, regardless of even what industry it is, right? Like any business that you set up, having this really changes it. So walk me through this, because I know part of smartphone, it's all about the dialer being able to make more calls. That's even AI in itself, like being able to have that system set up so you have more dialers to be able to make more calls. So that means more potential leads, right?
I would say, so one of the things I always say to people is volume isn't necessarily always your aim. It is not, it is a sort of false promise to yourself to think that the more people I call, the more volume and I can do, the better, because volume is very dependent on quality of data, right? And quality of leads. So you could be that busy fool that gets spends a bit of money on the biggest list they can from the cheapest place in the world, thinking, well, okay, it's cheap and some of the data is going to be crap, but it's got 25,000 leads in it. Okay, but it's inefficient, it's expensive, and it opens you up to potential compliance problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, I usually bring things back when people talk about dialing themselves, like cold calling or things like that. I usually bring it back down to the data first and to say, look, your number one step isn't the dialer. It's to set yourself up for success by doing two things: getting the best data and training your people the best way. You do that, the volume isn't the issue. The data and the training is going to get you the win, not the volume of crap.
And so I want to break down the data and the training. So the data is all out there in terms of leads and all sorts of distress signals, and you got tax delinquents, pre-foreclosures, all of that stuff. But what have you seen the best teams out there do, train the best way so that their team can be successful? What are you seeing the best teams do?
I've worked with hundreds. At this point, I've worked with hundreds of real estate investment companies on the phones, working with their teams. In general, there's a couple parts of that. Number one, you got to set your team up for success. And that means training them properly. And training them properly is not about training a script. Scripts are fine to give people guidance, but if you train people on scripts, you box them in to a methodology that they cannot waver from because they don't have the core skills to be able to do that. You and I speaking together can maneuver our conversation any way we want, and you and I are going to be able to maneuver that however we want because we're both very good at this and we talk for a living, and we can do that. Now, when you build a team, and you build them off of scripts, you're locking them in. You're usually getting people who aren't that skilled, and you're locking them into that as opposed to building up sales skills, listening, the right type of open questioning, all of that sort of things. When you build the skills properly, that's going to give them the ability when a question comes or a statement comes or something happens that's out of left field, which is going to happen on every, third lead. They're not going to worry about deviating from a script. They're going to be able to flex with the flow of the conversation. So building those core skills is vital. And the second thing is reinforcement. I've seen way too many people, the best operators I've ever seen, have a methodology of review and reinforcement that is weekly, not optional. And the reason being is that everybody gets lazy, everybody gets comfortable. And when you reinforce, you catch bad habits early, you identify good habits and promote them to everybody, and you're able to bring everyone with you. If you just train once and forget it, set it and forget it, you are going to find that the most costly you've ever done, because 6 weeks down the line, you're going to have lost 7 deals you could have closed.
Yeah. There's so much to it, right? Like if you can lock these things in, you'll have a successful team, right? You'll have, and it doesn't take the volume. Like you don't have to go that hard. You just got to have the right skill sets and education so that they can succeed, and rewarding them, reinforcing their abilities. And like you said, like you perfectly said it, if you give them the script, they are boxed in. But if they can learn how to think even outside the box, that's when it's going to change the game for the whole team. Because now it's that's an invaluable piece. Like even in my industry, it's like I know what it takes to kind of figure out a situation that's not in that box, right? But then it's like do that with every single person. You need to like really make sure they understand that and get it through. So that's awesome. And Jordan, it's building these systems and processes team wise, you know, setting the team up for success with all the software and systems. What else are you seeing out there that can really help level up a real estate team?
I mean, I think one of the, there's a lot of things. The best performers, and this is going to sound really trite, but you know what? There's a reason that business fundamentals work, right? All the shiny key crap you want to look at, all the promises of this one thing is going to do, is going to get you the $5 million a year, whatever. Guess what? Pay 47 and you're going to be rich for the rest of your life. You can follow any shiny key you want, but the truth is, business fundamentals exist for a reason, and they are usually universally true. And when I have seen, the most successful operators I've ever worked with do the fundamentals right. And when you're talking about sales, you're talking about training your team, like we just talked about, reinforcing your team. And then what's the third big one that everybody who's successful gets really right and the people who aren't successful get wrong? The follow-up consistency. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Follow-up consistency, it is trite to say the fortune's in the follow-up, but guess what? It's trite and true. So, but that's a fundamental thing. And when I see operators who really thrive, they have a very, very solid methodology for follow-up that is applied universally and rigorously. And the people who don't, the ones who scatter around trying to find that next big thing, are missing the gold that's sitting there that they're ignoring because they want to see when the next lead comes in. You want to really be successful? Train your team, reinforce your team, and have a kick-ass follow-up. That alone is going to get you like 90% of the way there.
And I completely agree with you about follow-up. So you want to talk about follow-up? Just about like an hour ago, I had sent an email to a lead and I did a follow-up. Like this was a couple of days ago. I did a follow-up. I said, hey, hadn't heard from you, just following up on this. And then they got back to me and they said, oh, we got to get with this, and we're ready to go. And all I thought was, it really works, because if I didn't follow up with that lead, I would have never heard anything back from that. And so I know that. I mean, now being about to go, 5 years in my own business, sometimes my team probably thinks I'm really crazy when I'm like, follow up, because I know the magic of the follow up, right? There's times, Jordan, I'll even calendar the follow up. I'll even email myself the follow. I know you're probably thinking
times. You should do that every time.
Every time.
Mean, you did that today, right? That happened today?
Yes.
I had the exact same experience today. I had in my CRM, I had a task to follow up with someone. I followed up twice before with this person, but I had put in it. I calendared it for today. I reached out, and today I got an email back going, "Great, sorry, let's get together next week." Now, I could have easily, if I hadn't been diligent in having a system that would allow me to make sure I nurtured that lead properly, which you should have if you're a real estate investor and you do not have a solid CRM that helps you nurture, then you're losing money. I did that follow-up just like you did today, and they responded today, and now that call is booked in for next week. That's a really good potential job. If I'd not followed that up, I'd be sitting here going, well, I had a good day, but not a great day.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I love the follow-up game. I don't know. I'm sure that there's people out there that'll think about this. I feel like it is the game, right? Like there's a game. Like, is something going to happen from this, right? You never know. Sometimes it takes 5 follow-ups before you really get that person to jump in and say, all right, okay, like we're ready to go. Who knows? You never know. But Jordan, I love your mindset when it comes to this. Let me talk about like your internal business. Like I'd love to understand like your internal processes. So if you have these systems built out where there's ways to use and leverage AI, what does your team structure look like?
Well, it's changing day to day right now. It's changing. So we've got about 60 people in our company at this point. We started about 9, almost 9 years ago now. And we organically grew this company. We're bootstrapped, myself and 3 co-founders. We're still the co-founders, and we still all work together. I will say this year, last year in March, I was the CEO of the company for the first 8 years, and in March, I essentially upgraded to chairman. I got
Wow.
out of the day-to-day of the company. I built it up to just shy of 10 million, and with my team. And now there's a new CEO in place. One of my other co-founders, Vlad, and I've gone on to chairmanship, so to speak, to actually facilitate building more relationships, to free me up so that I could concentrate only on relationships. Um, and our team, we've organically grown from 3 people in a room to 60.
Wow.
And the challenges of doing that, I mean, there's a whole series of podcasts needing to be devoted to the growth you go through, particularly high growth, right? So software businesses tend to grow fast. Because our curve, we were doing comfortably 70% year-on-year growth. Most businesses don't do 70% year-on-year growth. Most normal businesses. Software does 70, 100, 200, 300, no problem. We were feeling very comfortable with 70 year on year, thinking it's quite a nice organic level. But that you're talking about, 3 people to 5 people to 10 people to 20 people to 30 people to 4, and the challenges of navigating from a leadership point of view, from a structural and a process point of view, from a finding out when people have peaked and need to be maybe replaced point of view. There is a real kind of truth to the challenge of scale at that pace and that size that we had to learn and figure out as we went, and made mistakes, but also had some success as well.
Jordan, would you mind getting into some of the lessons that you learned along the way? Because I know that there are teams out there that quickly scale fast. They go from 3, they go to 10, they go to 20, 60. So give me, like, I don't know, maybe the top 3 or 5 things that you really learned the most that you can share with us. Because this is all business strategy, right? This is where we really learn the growth.
When you're scaling a business, clarity across the company and structure become very important very fast. And if you treat it after the fact, you're going to go through a lot of pain. But if you prepare for it, you're probably going to be able to grow with a lot less challenges. And so what I mean by that is, don't wait to bring clarity and structure to your organization, to how you work, how you organize work, how you organize priorities, how you communicate internally those priorities, how you get everybody on the same page, how you keep everybody within the values of the company, focused on what you're trying to bring. Don't wait for that. Don't think you're over structuring that, because chances are, if you think you're over structuring it, you're already too late. You're already probably missing things. You're already probably finding friction. And it's way harder to fix friction and problems of structure when you're at 30 people and 40 people than you are when it's at 10.
Okay, that's awesome for sure. I mean, I think what's so important too, and I see it in my business, is that level of communication has to be there, right? Setting the goals, setting the expectations, setting the setting. Like, you really have to have that clear and concise communication. And I agree with you about building structure. I can think of a number of things that my team and I are setting up now, because I know that as the year continues, there's going to be more volume, and you got to be able to have those building blocks right now, because later things are going to happen, and if you got the reinforcements in place, you'll be steady, right? So I see that, and whether that's systems, whether that's getting accounts set up, I really believe that as well. So that's a great one. What's another one that you have?
I think, one of the things, leadership's a funny one. Leadership's a funny one, particularly, you and I are both leaders. I have had my own businesses for 20 some odd years. I've never worked for anybody as an adult. And I've always been at the top of the businesses, obviously. And leadership is a funny one, because, one of the things that sooner or later every business is going to go through some element of crisis, right? It's almost impossible to have a business that doesn't go through a period of some element of challenge and crisis. And if it's bad enough, it's an existential one, and that requires really very specific leadership. And when I say by, I really I think that one of the things you have to do as you're scaling a business is identify how you are, what is the leadership structure in your organization that is going to be able to go into the war with you and win it. And I don't mean that by like the people who are going to work the hardest or anything like that. That's time and all that. That's not the consequence of this. What I mean by that is, you need to have people that are focused, disciplined, that buy into what you're doing, and that are going to be able to be calm under pressure. And that's something you have to stress test pretty early on with your leadership team. I mean, I'll give you an example. We had an existential crisis to our business about 4 years ago when I was CEO.
Really?
Yeah. It was a genuine existential crisis involving some telecom stuff and upstream providers and all this. And I was CEO at the time, and we were being, it felt like we were being attacked on all fronts in some ways, from a legal point of view. And I remember very clearly, getting the senior leadership of the company in a Zoom call together and establishing what we were going to do, and everything ran through me. Establishing clear objectives, exactly what each team was going to do, marketing and product and support and all that. And then establishing a process whereby everything could come back through me, and then the decision could be made, and then we could execute. Now, coming back through me wasn't about ego, right? It was about clarity, because you need that voice and that calmness to be able to pause, take a breath, look at the situation, decide on the play, set the expectation across the team, and then let them execute it, knowing that they are confident in that work. And those are all kind of leadership elements that, if you're serious about scaling a business, you have to be serious about scaling the leaders in your business. It's not just one person. It is the leadership team, whether that is a formal executive team or a wider team, whatever that is. It's different for every business. But you have leaders in your organization, and you have to identify them, nurture their leadership skills, because if you do that early, when you need those leadership skills, they'll be there for you and you can be unified. If you don't, you have panic, and panic is almost always bad.
Yeah. And I agree with you about having people that are on your team that have that ability to stay steady in those moments, right? When you're dealing with so many different clients and so many different people and so many different things going on throughout the day, or like you're saying, like, that must have been really crazy too with telecom companies. You have to have that team, that backbone behind you, because without it, I mean, do you have business structure? Do you have stability? It's instability. So that is so important, to find people that are focused, that are disciplined and calm under pressure. That's great. That's great. I mean, these are business principles that are super important. And like you said, leadership is super important too. I haven't been crying over here. Like all of a sudden, something almost, I got a tickle in my throat, and as soon as
It's so beautiful.
I know, it's so great. All of a sudden, it just hasn't stopped. So, I just roll with it, right? Everybody knows that. But Jordan, like, business principles, I think, are one of the most overlooked things when everybody's getting into real estate. They focus so much on deal, but they forget about all the internal things. And it's always something I feel as an entrepreneur I'm always working on with my team, with all my team members, because without it, you as the leader, it's hard to survive that way. So it always starts at the top. The leader sets the tone for where everybody's going. So, Jordan, this has been awesome. Did you mention to me that you wrote a book or one of your favorite
I
books?
did actually. I wrote a book called Click, Call, Scale. The Real Estate Investor's Ultimate Phone System Playbook. And actually, if anybody listening and watching goes to clickcallscale.com, you can get an absolutely 100% free copy, no shipping charges. I'll ship it to you for free. Because I really, it goes through the fundamentals of how to set yourself up. It talks about sales training skills, key skills. It talks about power dialing, text messaging, TCPA compliance, and things you need to know about. And it really is, it's everything I've learned having worked with real estate investors for a dozen years and having built a phone system with my team, and seen the good, the bad, the ugly, what works in Florida that doesn't work in Texas, what works, texting but doesn't work calling. It's kind of putting all of that together in one single book that was a really fun to write as well.
I love it. Wait, you just brought up a great topic that I'd love to just dive in on a little bit. Text compliance. Everybody asks about this. Like, what does everybody need to know if they're trying to do that in their business?
Yeah, sure. So text compliance, I would say at this point, text messaging compliance has a higher bar to it than calling. You are legally allowed to cold call. You are not allowed to cold text. And that's all there is kind of to it. Text messaging is actually pretty easy. And there's one, actually, I'll tell you what, here's a tip that I'll give you right now. Fundamentals of text compliance are get consent, right? Consent is everything. So if you're doing a lot of inbound, PPC, you're doing a lot of lead gen like that, great. Drive into a web form, make sure they've got consent built into the web form. Golden, that's the best. But here's something that people need to know about. There's something called an existing business relationship and an EBR. And an EBR is essentially a shield, a limited shield. I mean, I'm talking to a lawyer. So a limited shield. I'm not a lawyer, so don't, but it's a limited shield against the do not call registry in TCPA. Because what it does is when you have an existing business relationship, basically happens when you have a reasonable expectation with someone that they have engaged you to do business. So, for instance, that does not mean you cold called them once, they called back and said, no, right? That's not an existing business relation. That is not a reasonable version of an attempt to do business. But where you have had conversations with someone, where you have had, a genuine dialogue, an EBR gives you a 90-day window by which you can communicate back to that person, even if they're on the DNC list. Even if they've explicitly said stop, don't do it. Like if they've said that, but an EBR is great because the DNC list is one of the quickest traps most people get into. They'll buy a list and they won't scrub against the DNC list, or they'll scrub it once and then they'll keep calling the list for 2 years. And you're like, guys, killing me, scrub it again. You should be scrubbing it every month. But an EBR is a really great thing. Now, the only thing you need to do to be able to demonstrate this is you need to track those conversations and essentially set that time frame in your CRM. And that I have seen successfully TCPA litigation thwarted because an EBR existed, because they said, no, look, I called them because look, I texted them because we've been going back and forth. I hadn't heard from them for a month, so I checked back in with them. And so that's something that's really important from a text message point of view. Look, the biggest thing you ever have to think about with text messaging is consent.
Mm-hmm.
Consent is everything. And you're playing with fire if you're going to start doing a lot of texting with no consent. It's against our terms of use. It's absolutely. But consent is your number one thing you have to worry about when it comes to text messaging.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about getting that, right? Making sure that there's some kind of consent in there. But you said EBR?
Existing business relationship,
Yeah.
EBR. Basically, when you've say I've called someone, they call me back, we have a conversation, and it goes well, and then they kind of ghost me. Well, within that framework, I can follow back up with them because we were having a productive conversation, right? I got a 90-day window from the last time they talked to me. They had an inbound to me. I got about a 90-day window where I can reach out comfortably, knowing I'm shielded by the EBR, presuming there one can exist because there's a reasonable intent to do business. If they've ever bought something from you, right? If you say you bought one of their properties, you've then got an 18-month window. If a transaction has happened, an EBR is usually in most states valid for 18 months.
That's really
It does vary state by state, so do check your local states.
Where can most people learn more about this? I mean, of course, they could probably type it in any kind of AI system, right? And find out like more about it. But like more of a crash course, like here's what you can do, here's what you can't do.
I mean, go to clickcallscale.com and get my book.
Perfect. Done.
Like it's free. I'll give it to you. That's certainly a one great way. And then yeah, I mean that's a great way. And also, like, if you go to smartphone.io, you can go to our help documentation. It's open to everybody. We don't hide it, and there's a ton of information there.
Click, call, scale.
Clickcallscale.com.
You got to check it out. You got to find it. I know Mike will be putting it up as the QR code. There it is. And look, the resources are out there. The ability to learn more from people in our industry are out there. Learning from Jordan. I mean, just on the time he's been on the show. I mean, this is the kind of invaluable stuff that we have and the guests that we bring on the show. So, Jordan, this has been awesome. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people that know smartphone. A lot of people know like where the industry is going with it and love your software. So I'm sure that people will be commenting about that. Jordan, as I do on the Al Nicoletti Show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. Any lasting impressions that you want to leave the audience with, or any tips or tricks that can really help them elevate their business. So as I do, Final Words, Final Thoughts, Jordan Fleming.
I'm gonna go back to AI because genuinely, if you can get your mindset into understanding, look at your organization chart right now and look at where the roles can be split between human and system. It's an exercise everybody should be doing. And it isn't about devaluing the person. It isn't about getting rid of people either. Quite honestly, we are managing to do this without firing anybody because we're repositioning talent to where we need it. So AI is here. It's here to say it's a transformational shift. If you think about the 80s, we all went to bookstores, we all had travel agents, and we existed in a world where you'd go across the world for 6 months and you'd phone people once a month because that's all you could do. We now live in an internet world, right? The internet, the dot-com bust happened, but the internet stayed and it transformed everything. And AI is another transformational shift. And if you think it isn't, you're crazy. And what you should really be thinking, not about shiny AI bullshit, pardon my French, but like stop thinking about what video I can do or what stupid thing I can clone or whatever. Look at your organizational chart and think, where are the roles where I can share between true agents, an agentic structure, and people. And when you do that, you'll be able to start to identify those roles where you can easily implement AI, where you can build structures that pass work between the two. And that's only going to happen if you change your mindset into what AI means to business. It's not shiny. It's not fluky. It is actually labor that you can hire into your business.
Jordan, awesome. And as you're saying that, I'm just thinking about all the team members I have and what AI software they could use to take more work off them to make them more productive, right? What are those tasks? But most people don't think about it, right? Most people don't think about what that is. And I love those final words, final thoughts. It's definitely game changing. So we're all gonna be using AI more. That's for sure. Jordan, awesome getting to do this. Awesome meeting you. And you're the smartphone guy. So thank you so much for coming on the show, on the Al Nicoletti Show. And it was a blast. And I know I'll be seeing you really soon. And can't wait for that. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Al. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Jordan. We'll see you soon. All right, everybody, you heard it from the smartphone owner and founder, Jordan Fleming himself. Lots of different things going on, lots to learn about with AI and business structure, maybe some text messaging stuff that you can take a little bit from that and get his book. I mean, there's a lot to learn, and you can learn so much from guests and their experience in how they've scaled their business, what they're doing internally, what they're learning about where the world's going. And that's what this is all about. We're learning together and growing. So if you want more information on the Al Nicoletti Show, scan the QR code. Tons of episodes there, lots of entertainment. You don't want to miss it there, and find all the things on probate's curative title. Everything is there. So we'll see you next Wednesday night, and it's another one on the Al Nicoletti Show. It's a wrap. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.